there. Welcome, everyone, back to another recording of the StarCast podcast. We are talking today about what people are looking for in their wellness travel. We know that wellness travel is booming. People, when the reports first came out several years ago, it was primary wellness travel, secondary wellness travel, right? Did you go somewhere for a trip just to be well, or were you going somewhere but you wanted wellness benefits while you were there? Now it's just all wellness all the time. I think COVID gave us a real lift in that way. And so recently, when I was on a press trip to the Kintsugi Women's Retreat in Abu Dhabi, I met two amazing travel journalists. So I said, how about if we get on a podcast and talk about this? Because these ladies travel the world, they go to all the coolest places, and they have lots of insight on what consumers are looking for in their spas and wellness facilities. So that brings us to today. I'm welcoming Nicole Trilivas, a luxury travel writer, and Angelina Villa-Clark, who is a freelance travel and lifestyle journalist, both based in the UK, but as I said, traveling the world. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So let's start with how we met, because we were on this really amazing trip to a retreat in Abu Dhabi, which has just opened for women only. And we realized, we had been to many of the same places or had the same interests. Of course, I'm not a journalist by trade. It's my side gig, but it was really fun to talk to you both. And you were both heading off from there onto other trips, as I recall.
Yeah, I was taking advantage of the fact that we were in UAE and I was heading over to Dubai to see a few of the new openings there.
That's right. And then you and I both went to Dubai, to separate places where we could basically see each other across the way, but not not in the same building. And being Dubai, it's too hard to go out and go about. And Angelina, I think you went back to the UK and then you went back to Oman, if I'm wrong.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I went to the Six Senses Ziggy Bay. So I got back last week.
Is that the place where you like jet in on a zip line?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah.
You can do.
They did offer us to do that on a different day, but in fact, both the girls, there was 4 of us on the trip, and 2 girls that did it were actually ill afterwards.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cancelled initially because the high winds, but then they ended up feeling very nauseous because I think the guy that was doing it was very young and sort of enthusiastic and was whipping them around. So they both disappeared for the afternoon.
Oh, good
gosh.
I guess so. Put your luggage on the zip line, right? They probably bring that in a different way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you approach the resort from a sort of high mountain peak, and it's down below in a valley. So you can. I mean, they do say you can zip line in. I suppose it's a pretty spectacular way of of arriving.
I'm here, boom, and make sure you don't hurt yourself. So let's go back about both of your career paths. Nicole, I'll start with you. Like how does one become a luxury travel writer? It sounds like the amazing job, but I'm sure you don't, get that right out of college. What was your career path?
Well, I've always been interested in communications, and that's what I studied. So for many years, when I lived in New York, I worked in advertising. And then when I came to the UK, I parlayed my advertising work to work for a community an organization that's basically builds communities between private travel designers and hotels. And the hotels were a very high level. And so after working for this company for a number of years, I realized I had a good wheelhouse of information of the luxury travel industry. And as I've always been a writer and I've always been into communications, I thought, let me see what I can do with this knowledge. And I was able to sort of rattle off the top 10 best hotels in Marrakesh off the top of my head. And I can give you the pluses and minuses out of each one. So I just sort of started pitching publications cold. Usually freelance journalists start off as in-house journalists and then go freelance. But I went in sort of on the side door, I always like to say. So I started doing that and it ended up working. And eventually I went full-time and now I'm a full-time travel writer.
But you work for yourself.
Yes.
And that must be great, right? I mean, but you've got to find your stories.
Totally. What's great is, I mean, every now and then editors will come to me with commissions, but the fun part about my job is I get to write about things that I genuinely think are really cool or something that interests me. And whenever you're writing or talking about anything that interests you, as anyone knows, you can rattle on and on and on about it forever. So that's the real joy about being freelance. You find those topics that you're really keen on talking about, and that's what makes the job so fun.
So, could you tell us a few of the publications where we might see your work, Nicole?
Sure. I cast a really wide net, so I try to write really globally. So for American publications, Travel and Leisure, Robb Report for the UK, the Times, Telegraph, and then I've been doing a lot for Arabian publications like Harper's Bazaar Arabia, Robb Report Singapore. So yeah, I like to keep cast a wide net and take advantage of the English language publications all around the world.
Right. That's awesome. And how about you, Angelina? How did you get your start?
Mine was a bit more traditional. So I studied English literature at university. I then spent a year in Barbados, of all places, which is another story. And when I came back, I had done a little bit of work for a local newspaper out there, which truly are, in fact, the national newspapers in the Caribbean are like sort of local newspapers. So, and Barbados at that time, and I'm sure it is still the same now, is very, very safe island. So there wasn't a lot of news as we know it. And I came back sort of thinking maybe I should get into newspapers. But I ended up doing work experience at Marie Claire magazine, which lasted nearly a year. And they suggested that I do a postgraduate journalism qualification, which at the time was 3 months at a London university, just to hone in on the skills that I'd learned on the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And then I went and worked for a business title, which led me to, in the same company, which was owned by the Express Group of newspapers. I started work as deputy editor on In Britain, it was called. It was for the British Tourist Authority. And in that company, they published High Life, which was for British Airways.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, after about a year, I applied for a job on High Life and ended up working there for like 11 years,
Wow.
mainly as deputy. Most of that time was as deputy editor. And this was sort of about 10 years ago. And it was sort of the golden era of contract publishing. So we essentially could, as long as the story idea was good, the editor was very keen on us traveling a lot. So I did lots of travel then.
That would have
It's
been
quite
an
a different-
ideal job for an airline. I know many airlines have shuttered their in-house publications, but I was on BA last week and they still have High Life on the back of the seats.
Yeah. I think also it's different. I mean, everything's got so much more commercial now that actually what the writers can write about in BA now has to be sort of sold through BA Holidays. It's a sort of different proposition to what it was 10 years ago. But still a great publication. Yeah, and I just sort of, by then had moved out of London. I'd sort of lived my whole life in London, and we moved out due to my husband's job, and I had 2 boys, and so I decided to go freelance. And I've been freelance for about 10, 11 years, writing for a whole host of titles. Such as Mail on Sunday, Condé Nast Traveller, Country Life, Forbes, Evening Standard, basically the main sort of mainstream publications, newspapers and magazines. And like Nicole says, sometimes editors come to me with stories, which is great because it's a guaranteed commission. And if you like that idea, then off you go. And most of the time, you're sort of coming up with the ideas yourself and sort of pitching to editors. So, yeah.
So your stories tend to cover spa and wellness. Do you have that particular angle to your story?
A lot of the time, because it's become, especially in the last few years, it's become such a huge burgeoning industry and interest that actually any sort of top end hotel or residence or whatever it is, they now are sort of turning their attention to wellness, and that has become something that's new that you can write about, and also just more in depth. So there's more to it.
There's a lot more to it, right?
Yeah.
So, Nicole, what do you look for when you visit a property? on a journalist trip, and you're there, you're hosted, they give you a nice room and a welcome basket and they make everything nice. But, what are you looking for sort of under the sheets and around the corners while you're there?
Well, as my specialty is luxury, I'm looking for that super high bar, but a lot of the time that bar is a given. You're going to have a great spa, you're going to have a great F&B program, you're going to have great service. So a lot of the time it's more rooting out what the real story is. And that comes from talking to the staff. A lot of times with these beautiful heritage properties in Europe, you have staff that have worked there for half a century, and they could tell you these really, really great stories. Or even sometimes there's a dish with a story attached to it, or there's a very particular art program, and they have this great art collection. So I'm looking for something that goes a little bit deeper than a standard, this is a beautiful hotel, because unless you're trying to pick a hotel for that destination, most of the readers might not necessarily care about that if they're not going there. But anyone is going to care about a human interest story. Anyone's going to care about a historic story. So it's just about talking to everyone from, the groundskeepers, the gardeners, the chefs, the wait staff. And most of the time, all the good stories come from talking to not the marketing people, because they're the ones who aren't censored, and they're the ones who are going to tell you all the good, juicy stuff that turn into good stories. So I just try to look below the surface and to try to see what I can sort of ferret out what the larger story is here.
See what you say about the marketing people, because I know when I have to work on a story where I have to go through marketing, it's like, it adds so much complexity, and they slow it down, they gum it up. It's just like, you're right. I mean, you really get the story by being on the property and looking and talking to people. But I suppose that the marketing, the PR people have to earn their money too.
Totally. But they only want to really show the property in, the one light, which is a really, really great light. I think the best kind of marketing and PR person are the ones who think like journalists and think that, I think in terms of a good hook, which they might not necessarily want it. They might go into a year saying, this year we really want to push our wellness theme, but they might have this really great art collection that they've been growing sort of behind the scenes. That's a much bigger, better story that I want to tell, because maybe the wellness story has already been told before. Or maybe I have a publication that is really interested in the art. So I find that the PRs who just let you do your job and let you kind of hone in on what you want, give you access to people, are the ones that I work best with.
And of course, there will be a story in the end, and they know that it's just maybe not the certain story that they're pitching. Angelina, from your perspective, what are you looking for as a traveler?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Nicole that sometimes what you're presented with an invite, or talking to a PR about a place, is not necessarily what you're going to end up writing about. For me, I mean, I do work in the luxury end as well, but I always like something that has an authenticity about it. So going to a place and then maybe discovering more about the sort of locale, or as Nicole said, the people that work there, the destination, and how that hotel or resort feeds into that and incorporates that. Because, nobody really wants to go to a place that is cookie cutter, that could be found anywhere. Yes, it's got an amazing spa, an amazing restaurant, but you want to feel that if you go to Crete, that you are in Crete and you are eating Cretan food, not even necessarily Greek food. You want to be sort of rooted to that place, and that's what often stands places apart from each other. So that's a real key thing for me, and also just a property or a place or somewhere that goes the extra mile. So if it is a luxury story, something that sort of has that hidden level of something that surprises you. Mm-hmm. I think surprise is a really good word, because a lot of sort of luxury jet-setting travelers are jaded. They've done it, they've seen it, they've been there. So something that really sort of, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be wow, it could be sort of a hidden moment or a special level of service. So yeah, these little extras and these little stories that can also make a good story for a journalist is what I look for.
But those jet-setting travelers, I mean, it takes a lot to surprise them, right? Because as you say, they've seen everything, they've been in all the best places. I like your comment about the sense of place, and I think that we got away from that in hospitality with brands obviously wanting to control their presentation to the world and looking for brand standards and making things systematized, which of course is smart from a business perspective. But to your point, you don't want to go to a Waldorf Astoria and not know what city you're in because it could be in any city, right? You want some things
Yeah.
that tie it to the locale.
Yeah. I mean, a good brand that does that really well actually is the Aman brand, which is super high end. But each of their properties are either carved out of historic, buildings, and they tell their own story. And you know you're in an Aman hotel, but yet you also know you're in that destination. And they do that really well. They do that sort of storytelling of where they've decided to sort of open up. So I think that's a good brand to look at.
It's funny you mention Aman. I'm moderating a panel at the FIBO conference for fitness in Germany in a few weeks, and we're having a future of hospitality panel, and Yuki Kiyono is on it. She's the VP of wellness for Aman. And she'll speak about Janu, which has just opened in Tokyo. And unfortunately, Nicole wasn't able to get there. The timing wasn't right. And when she was just in Tokyo.
They were well, so basically I planned my Tokyo trip and then they came up with the opening dates after my dates were already set, so I wasn't able to extend it. But it's based on a new development, and I did go around that development and I saw the entryway. So it looks really cool. It looks like an Aman though. I'm not sure how they're differentiating the Janu brand from the Aman brand, because from the exterior, even from all the images that I've seen and even the price point, it's basically an Aman.
Oh, right.
Well,
so I'm not quite, I don't know what the differentiation is in that.
No, they are saying sustainability and also wellness is a focus. But as you said, I mean, I think Aman has that anyway. So
yeah.
Well, we will see. One of you will be there, I'm sure, before the year is out, and you'll be able to report back. So let's in on the spa in particular. As Angelina said, all of these high-end properties have a spa. You guys go to all of these places, and they can look the same: check-in desk, tranquility lounge, treatment rooms. What sorts of things are you looking for that make the experience stand out for you?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
I think for me, tying into the destination is key. So I like sort of properties that tap into maybe sort of somehow ancient wellness, that is found in that destination, and modernizing it and maybe incorporating into something new. So whether you're in Greece and you're having a Greek hammam, or something that uses maybe olive oil and local ingredients, that also taps into sort of something that is modern and scientifically proven. That I always think that's a great start. And also, I don't necessarily want to, you don't necessarily want a bog standard facial and then into the relaxation room. You want something that's sort of a deeper journey, maybe. I've been to a few recently. When you say
deeper journey, do you mean like more around the actual hands-on part?
Yeah, maybe sort of, I know everybody talks about personalization now and bespoke treatments, but it's really sort of tapping into that and listening to you as an individual, because a lot of people say they do personalization and something that's tailored to the guest. But actually, the truth is there's 3 or 4 choices that they sort of put you under, and that's what you're going to have. So I think, really trying to have that time to listen to what a guest needs, because then you can really truly tailor something. So that's what I mean about a sort of deeper journey. And it depends how much time you've got in a resort, so you can't expect miracles, but something that you sort of feel like they really listen to me. And even if it's simplistic, whether I've got a back pain, they really worked on that, rather than you fill out the form and then you go and you get the same as everybody else. So I guess that's sort of what I mean.
How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. The sense of place is a good, a definite, really important place to start. For me, the spa is another avenue to find a story. So give me a whole 360 experience. It's not only picking local products to use or local natural products to use or having like a tie-in with the sort of traditional medicine of that area, but also make the robes applicable to the destination, make the welcome drink or the tea particular to that destination. Anything that's really gonna hammer in the fact that you're somewhere special and somewhere new, it is to me a really good makes for a really good hotel spa. So a lot of times I remember when I was in Bali, a lot of the spas there, they put you in the traditional throngs and they'll tie them differently every time you go in. So you have like a cool new kind of sarong style that I always watch and I say, okay, I'm gonna remember how to do this for the beach so that I properly forget. And then, they have a very special herbal tea, and then they have these natural products, or the sort of heavy hitting medicinal products might be a local brand that's made in Indonesia or in Bali in particular. And then the therapists are from Bali. So anytime you can give me something give me something at the spa that's more than sort of a standard massage, or they always talk about this is their signature treatment, and then the signature treatment is just like a regular massage or regular facial. Anytime you can incorporate a sense of place makes it a lot more special. I was thinking about this massage I got in Rwanda at this at one of the one and only properties. It's called Nwenge House, and it's in the tea plantation areas. And they did this massage with these wooden dowels that traditionally the medicine men would sort of carry as a sign of like their status in the community. So they use these dowels in the massage. So stuff like that that makes it makes a massage a little bit more special. It reminds you of the place that you're in. That's really important to me.
These are great points. I mean, because you're right, the bog standard facial or massage, as Angelina said, I mean, you don't feel like you're getting anything special, but you can see from a booking standpoint how it would make more sense to book you time. You have 90 minutes and then the therapist decides what's to do. And some properties are able to do that. But of course, from a operations perspective, that could be a challenge too. If not every therapist can perform every treatment. So it's like they want to put this beautiful picture out, but you also have to look at the operational issues behind it. I think the point you're making, however, differentiation is what I'm hearing.
Mm.
Not the same old
Definitely.
service, right?
And one of the easiest ways to do that is to hire locally and look, like what Angela was saying, look at the destination and look at the history of the destination. And I think that the the people who work at a hotel could be such an asset. I was talking to somebody recently, I've never been, but I was talking to the spa director of a few Four Seasons hotels in Southeast Asia. And she was saying how one of the therapists is a former nun, a former like Buddhist nun. And they built a treatment around this nun where she sort of does chants and almost like coddles you, and it's become this really popular treatment. Like Barack Obama had it done, and boom, that's a story. You know what I mean? Like that's a property that's been around maybe 10, 20 years. It's really hard for journalists, especially freelance journalists, to have an excuse to write about the story, because no one needs a hotel review. It's not a new hotel, especially if it's a destination like Bali, say, that's been written about to death. You need something to get the freelancers in the door, and something like that is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Point you're making, Nicole, about being really unique and different. Go ahead, Angelina.
I was it just brought to mind a really unique place that I went to. It's called Arctic Bath Hotel. It opened a couple of years ago. It's on a river in Swedish Lapland, and they are it's very remote, and they are extremely rooted in that sort of destination. And they have a lady that comes that you can book. I mean, we experienced it on a press trip, and you sit as the sun dips, mid sort of, the room is sort of candlelit, and it's before a spa treatment. And she sort of sings in sort of her sort of mother tongue, sort of folk songs, intermittently. And then as she's sort of singing these songs, like almost like lullabies, she sort of hands around these like little bowls of berries and sort of oat cakes that she made, all foraged in the morning, and sort of juniper berry drinks and things like that. All these little tiny, a whole mass of tiny little plates and bowls that themselves were also locally made and very rustic. And then she's sort of in between, like sort of talking about the folklore and the traditions of the area. It's like a different way of sort of calming you. So it was really, you felt really intrigued and curious about the culture, and you're also learning about it and also having a little bit of the food. And so all your senses are tuned into this because you're hearing sort of songs and a language that you're not familiar with. You're eating and drinking things. And then from that, because you're sitting in sort of bathrobes, and then you go off for an amazing sort of treatment. And that was standout, that I thought was really evocative of the place. And I love that.
Sounds amazing and unique, right? Not something you can have just anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when you're having a treatment, facials in particular. Do you like to be instructed on what's happening, what they're using, why, or do you like to just be left alone in your thoughts?
I like to be told up front. So I sort of know, and I don't like somebody that will talk throughout because it's intrusive. But I do like to I don't like some quite often actually you go in for a facial and you've booked in, say, for something, and you go in, you undress, you get on bed, and it starts. And there's no sort of communication about what's happening. And you're sort of wondering, that smells like lemon. Is it lemon? And then, of course, by the end of it, you forget to ask, even if you've got your sort of journalist head on. Because if a facial is good, you sort of, you're relaxed and in the zone. But I like to sort of have a little space up front so I can find out more about what's going to happen and what to expect as well. I think you can then switch off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I like a little summary at the end where then she's like, this is what I used. That was the cooling thing. This is what I used to clean your skin. And you sort of smell it afterwards. You can connect all the dots and then take a few pictures of the products if you want to remember anything for your piece or anything like that. But yeah, talking during, I mean, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a relaxing experience. So I try to get into my full, to really take a usual guest attitude about it and take off my journalist hat for a minute and get into the moment.
I hear that because we're always trying to balance on the operations side, giving the relaxation, but also being instructive. I mean, knowing that from our perspective, we have you for an hour, and if we want to positively impact you and your skin, we have to go beyond that hour with like some take-home tips or products or something to help you have better skin. But it's finding the right way to mix that in with the experience that's really key.
Yeah,
I think hotels.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I suppose the exception is if during that treatment there was going to be something unexpected or something cold, say, or a different, they could sort of quietly say, we're now going to do the whatever it is, just to keep, because obviously you want to keep in your sort of Zen moment. So I can see why you'd want to tell a guest that.
I was just thinking that hotels with really, unique spas are in a different position where they have you usually either that night before or that night. So I really like it when if I'm staying for the night and I'm having my spa treatment the next day. Sometimes spas will leave you a little a little kind of tester product in your bed, and they say like, just a reminder, your spa treatment is tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and they leave you little, like, if it's a Guerlain spa, they'll leave you like little like Guerlain testers or whatever. I'm just thinking hotels are in a unique position where they have you usually either the night before or that night. And I think that that's sort of a missed opportunity to really impart knowledge. Like maybe there could be maybe that's an opportunity to make the treatment a bit more, I don't know, provide a bit more knowledge or if there is a particular like scent that you're using, maybe they, have a little sachet of that scent and they say this is made by these herbs, or I just feel like it's a unique opportunity. Whereas most spas, if they're day spas, people are just walking in, you really only have them for the hour. When you're at a hotel, you do have them for the hour, but you do have access to them earlier, either before or after.
Yeah.
Love that idea. That's really great about putting the products in your room. I mean, the reason they don't have Pure Lane amenities throughout is obviously they're expensive, but knowing who's booked a spa treatment and giving those people something is a
And
really
what
good
they
idea.
booked.
Right.
Yeah. That's a great idea. And also that you could then, sometimes you get a choice of oils or whatever they could leave
Yeah.
in your room. So you could sort of, because sometimes you're presented with it and it's all such a rush, but it's nice to have a little time to linger with it. I was just going to add that I went to Waldorf Astoria in Dubai a couple of years ago. And at the time, they were having a real focus on sleep and sleep themed treatments in the spa. And their sort of offering was amazing because as soon as you checked in, they said to you, we run a special bath. And do you want it now to get over your jet lag? I think it was a whole jet lag focus, actually. So you could say, depending on the time of arrival, oh, I'll have it. Yes, I'll have that after dinner. I'll have it now, actually. And so they go and run the bath for you with special sort of sleep-inducing oils. And then they present you at check-in with a pillow menu that you choose there and then, rather than having to dial down. And that's
Oh, I
by the
know. I
time you
love the pillow menu.
Me too. I love a pillow
yeah, but
menu.
it's all sort of done. It's really well thought out. And then when you get to your room, they have all the sleep sort of miniatures, as Nicole was suggesting, in your room. So a sleep spray. It's very comprehensive, basically. The treatment sort of starts in your room. So you're already sort of addressing the jet lag issue before you even get to the spa. Yeah, I wish a lot of places did that. But I just remembered that.
How about the whole part with lockers and robes in the locker room? Are you have any pet peeves around that part of the experience?
I really love to go to the spa in my robe and in my slippers, but I don't like walking through a lobby in those
No,
accoutrements.
you don't?
No, well, I mean,
Right, we
like,
don't.
unless it's like a place like what is it called? The Blue Lagoon, the Retreat at the Blue Lagoon, which is like a proper spa hotel. Like everybody's just in their robes the whole time. Unless it's a place like that, I mean, even if you're kind of allowed to, it's still cringe and nobody likes to do that, like you're saying. So yeah, I mean, if there's a way, especially now, I've seen a lot of hotels adding spas after their openings, a lot of new hotels adding spas after their opening. So they're like these standalone, like this is one of the trends I've seen, these standalone spas, right? That come after, like not physically part of the hotel. They're also made for people coming in for the day, not just guests staying there. So anytime, there's an option where you can make it where you could just go from your room to the spa in your clothes, that's great. In your robe, that's great for me. I like that.
Yeah, that happened at Ferris Spa. When I checked in at the desk, they said it. They said, here's how you'll get to the spa, but there's a corridor on the second floor you can use and you don't have to come through the lobby. And I thought that was great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think often the changing room locker area is an afterthought. The best spas also sort of bring that cocooning feel to because what you don't want is to be somewhere that feels a bit sort of municipal, and sometimes they do. It's all a bit cramped and it's all a bit awkward, and you're trying to change, and so I think sometimes, there is a bit of an overlooked area.
For sure. How about things that you really don't like in the spa experience? Like, can you think of any things that really are a turnoff for you?
I totally appreciate this might be fine for some people, but I don't like it when you are presented with a male therapist without being told. And that's happened to me quite a few times. I think you should be asked up front rather than you thinking, oh, I better make sure I say. That's just me. I just find it slightly
Fair enough.
awkward. Yeah. So that's one thing that pops to mind.
I have a thing with ceilings. Like when you're lying facing up and there's like an ugly ceiling, or like a crack on the ceiling, or like a watermark on the ceiling. I just think like you are sitting there for an hour looking at this, you know? So recently I was at the Guerlain Spa at the Old War Office, the new one that opened up in London, at the Raffles Hotel. And they have this beautiful ceiling that's like perfectly lit with this kind of like bas relief plasterwork. And I was just like, oh, this is so relaxing.
And I love the kintsugi. I love how some of the ceilings had that crack that was filled with gold in the ceiling. And that, of course, is the whole theme of kintsugi. And I thought that was very clever. You're totally right. So many times when people that work in a spa, they are seeing it from eye level. They look around, it looks fine. And I always say you need to lay on the table, face down, face up. You need to look around, because what the guest perspective is very different than someone that walks into the room.
And even acoustically, sometimes, you know, I had a therapist once that had like a wheelie chair, and like my face is like right by these wheels that are essentially like that would probably, you know, from the therapist perspective, probably wasn't very intrusive, but lying on the bed and being closer to the floor, you know, you notice those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you like scientifically proven information when it comes to your product. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Like what do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, I guess the whole sort of spa world has evolved so much of late that there are now so much more research and experts on hand. Another pet peeve is I do love a good facial, but I don't like the facials that cleanse your skin, put on a layer of oil, then put on a layer of something else, and then it's another layer, and that comes off, and something else goes on. I sort of lie there thinking, why? Why is this? And also, is this going to completely affect my skin? 'Cause there's so many products and so many things going on. That might just be me. I think, yeah, I like to sort of know why, and sort of purpose-driven treatments. So if you use this is why. And also the whole notion these days of sort of visiting experts. A lot of spas are visiting experts. I like to sort of know that somebody has that expertise in a given area, and that's the offering, that it's the best of that, whether it's a facial or massage or acupuncture, whatever. And being, you know, having that explained, because it is a world that can be confusing. You know, even working in wellness, there's a lot of sort of jargon, and having having someone to break that down for you is good, because you feel like you've sort of learned something. I like to feel that.
Yes, I would think you would want to leave the treatment feeling like you learned something, right? Whether about how to care for your own skin, or about how products work together, or a personal habit, right? I mean, we want to be educated.
Yes, to a certain degree, and also because, you know, you want to continue. If you've had a really great facial and something really works for you, and it uses a particular ingredient in a product, you want to know that, so you can continue that journey at home. And also, you're more likely to request that again if it's a brand that different results. You know that works for you. So
About the memorable spa visits that you've had, what are a few that you might say beyond what you've already shared, or were really not good?
No, well. It's funny though, because when I was sort of thinking about this topic before we spoke, it's funny how few spa treatments are actually memorable, which is a real missed opportunity. Yeah, because I mean, I think I base, if there is a spa at the hotel, I will visit it while I'm there. So considering how many spas I'll visit, so many of them that just fade into the background is really shocking. But two that really stood out to me was there's a hotel on the Amalfi Coast called Montessario Santa Rosa, and it's this beautiful former monastery on the cliffs above the sea, and they use Santa Maria Novella toilet products, and they have those toiletries in their room. And the spa is just this beautiful subterranean, very like monastic, but just really relaxing. And the whole hotel smells so good. And I had this beautiful massage where they use the Santa Maria Novella oils. And then also they use like compress of the herbs as well. And it was just a beautiful space that was a lovely continuation of the hotel. And it really, told the story of the hotel well, and the nuns and the history, and just, yeah, a really gorgeous space. And then the other one is this brand YTL Hotels. They're a Malaysian family that have them. One of their hotels that they have is called Pangkor Lot, and it's
I've been there.
in.
Bangor
Have you
Lodge.
been there?
You can
Yeah.
talk to it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's this private island, and they have this spa village concept. And I thought the spa there was just so great. They take you through this ritual of baths first, and they have these cool sarongs where they tie them on you, and then they use all these local herbs, and it's basically all outdoors. And you feel like you're really nestled in nature the whole time, and you hear the ocean waves, you hear the breeze. It's really the landscaping is done really well, where you feel really private, but I just thought they did a really good job there.
I agree. I thought that was a really magical place. That was the one room where I remember that trip because I really wanted to see a monkey, and I could hear them, but I hadn't seen one. And the day I was leaving, I had cracked my balcony door open a bit, and I was, packing up, and I turn around and there's a monkey on my
Wow.
couch, like with a piece of fruit in its hand that it got. And I'm like, oh, this was not more monkey than I intended, right, to see. And then the friends are coming and they're all out on the balcony, and I'm like, oh my God. So that was one of those monkey moments at Pangor Lot. But for a
They
fun, that
actually
was fun.
warned
It
me
made it
about the
memorable
monkeys.
too.
They said make sure you keep your doors closed because the monkeys know exactly how to get into the mini bar.
Totally. They totally do. That's so funny. How about you, Angelina?
I think I was at Suniva Fushi in the Maldives 2 years ago. They launched their new wellness concept called Suniva Soul, and sort of used the word magical. And this site I thought was really magical. So you sort of it's all raised and elevated, almost as if you're in the treetops. The treatment rooms are all made from natural materials. They look like sort of bee sort of nests almost. And when you go in, it's just basically very plain. It's like womb-like into these rooms. They're plain, sort of pale pink plaster, beautiful, but beautifully finished. Everything's lovely. And the treatments are all use indigenous ingredients, made on site. There's a herbal oil place that they make everything. It was just deeply cocooning and nurturing. That was amazing. They've also got those sort of treatments where they've also got sort of the latest oxygen bars and the latest sort of developments in wellness there as well. So you can tap into anything that you want. It's very comprehensive. I've had sort of lots of standout. I think one that really I sort of mentioned a lot to people was a hotel called Kerr Hotel Skodsberg outside of Copenhagen. It's an old Grand Dame spa hotel. I think it was one of the first spa resorts in Denmark that people used to travel for miles in the Victorian ages. And they really sort of, there's all sort of vintage photos around about this history, and they really sort of hone in on that. But one of the things that you can do is they call it an extreme sauna. So you have an extremely hot sauna with a sauna maestra who uses scented oils and sings and uses sort of fans to whip the air, and you sit in this for quite some time as the heat, and she talks you through it. She tells you to breathe, and then you all the time you're thinking I've got to go out, and you sort of go through, and then halfway through she opens the door, some air comes in, and then it's shut again and you start again. And at the end of this you put on your robe and you traipse down a jetty and you basically jump off into the freezing Baltic Sea. And then when you come back, it is the same temperature in the sauna, but it feels lukewarm by now because you've had this shock. And then there's sort of music played and you can drink herbal tea. And yeah, that was a real sort of moment. So that was good as well.
That's a great example of contrast therapy, which is very popular right now. And in an upcoming episode of StarCast, probably in the next few weeks, I'll be talking about my Celtic Sweat Lodge experience that I had in Norway, which was 2.5 hours in a sauna, like pretty extreme.
Wow.
Yes. Let's talk about these trends, right? In recovery. I mean, you've mentioned technology. Like what What are you seeing in terms of outside of the room, or how technology is used, or new things outside of facials and massages? Anything to share on that that has intrigued you?
Well, of course, we've all been to the Kintsugi, which uses the quantum physics testing. I'm not sure how
There were
successful that
so
is.
many interesting things there. I'm thinking about that chair, and I'm forgetting the name. Nicole, do you remember Knepo?
It's like canopic or canope chair. It was like
Canope chair.
KNOPE.
Oh, yes.
The
Yeah.
vibrational, like vibrating yourself back into a state of normalcy somehow.
Yeah. That was interesting because obviously they were sort of trying to read your inner vibration. So, there was the thing that you put your hand in, the helmet, the speaking into the microphone. That was interesting. And of course, quantum physics is sort of, everyone's talking about it, and it's the science of the moment, if you like. So that was one.
Have you seen anything with LED or with headsets or listening or sound, or anything that's intrigued either of you?
I've
think
been seeing
LED
a lot of LED for facials.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
In general, I just feel like there's more biohacky sort of tech, like more heavy hitting science-based tech at normal spas. Like now it's almost, see, the bar with luxury is always you always have to be, on the cutting edge, and you always have to be doing something better. So I think that it's almost become like a standard in a lot of these hotels to offer more of the cutting edge tech as part of their normal practice. So I've seen a lot of LED because I think that's probably one of the easier and less expensive pieces of tech to bring in. But also too, like that for hotels that draws in a following of the local community as well.
Well, that's very important in many properties. Some of them are having membership. I just visited Cyro in Dubai, which is the world's first fitness recovery hotel. In fact, we have a podcast episode just published last week with people at Cyro, and it's all about recovery. They call the spa the recovery lab, not the spa. And they have treatment rooms and they have traditional treatments, but they also have technology. So it's an interesting mix. I'm just like to hear your feedback on what you're seeing. I think you're right. In luxury, they're going to proceed more slowly with that kind of thing.
That's opened in Knightsbridge in London. It's called HVN, standing for Haven. It's sort of a day spa, if you like, and I think there is a membership aspect to it. It's sort of their sort of tagline is conscious well-being. So you go in and the design has all been specially designed around biophilic principles. So it's sort of nature, and the air is injected with special scents, and there's birdsong that's been recorded in forests in the UK. But the offering is quite cutting edge in terms of aesthetic treatments and the latest in that, and resident experts. And you essentially go and say, this is what I'm after, and they will match that. And that has got quite high tech treatments on offer.
Lanzerhof Art Club as well, with that kind of combination of very cutting edge tech with traditional care. And that has a membership as well. Any comments from you, Nicole, on that?
Oh, I was just going to say with hotel spas and technology, it's a bit tricky because you have to offer something that works one and done. So, for example, a lot of the high tech skincare, you're supposed to do a course of 6, and the average guest might not be, coming back 6 times a year. So it's definitely something to think about for the hotel spa, where you have to have tech that's suitable for a one-time treatment.
Are you seeing any other new trends out there that have piqued your interest in terms of the whole hospitality wellness offering? Anything that was like, oh, that's different or new?
I'm seeing a lot of personalization, not so much as what we were talking about before, where they really listen to you and and focus on the areas that you want. I'm not seeing that so much. I think I agree with you, Angelina, when you were saying that it's something that they, it's sort of lip service and it never really happens. But I'm seeing more personalization in terms of when you want your spa treatment, where you want your spa treatment. I'm seeing a lot more like after hours, you can have your spa treatment in your room basically whenever you want. Things like that really account for our global lifestyle.
Yeah, I think definitely post-COVID resorts, hotels, I can see there's a lot of effort being pushed into being much more imaginative. whether it's a bath under the stars or all these little treatments that have a little layer of something extra and something special. That's definitely much more normal now. Whereas it would 3 years ago, really the spa menu would be quite bog standard at a lot of places. I think people, the spa sort of directors are realizing that people want more and people know a lot more themselves about wellness. We all sort of educated ourselves, I think, during COVID. And obviously, because of the nature of COVID, people became much more health aware. One big trend, I think, is more preventative treatments. But also that ties into what Nicole was saying, that actually they've got to get that right, because if you're only somewhere on holiday for a week or 2 weeks, you can only do so much. But that's definitely sort of undercurrent of what's going on, I think. Treatments that deal with long-term health and longevity are sort of buzzwords at the minute.
Longevity is a big buzzword at the moment because, we always knew we were going to die someday. It's not a surprise, but I think everyone realized, it could be closer than we thought with COVID. And people are really interested in not just living longer, but being healthy while they are.
Yeah.
Also, stylistically, I don't know if you guys have noticed this as well, but I'm seeing a lot of Roman bath style spas pop up, and like old-fashioned Roman style treatments. And it's done that a lot lately.
Yeah, the Roman baths under London. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah, it's called like Air or Air, I don't know. And then there's one in Estelle Manners Roman style baths, and then there's a new one coming in Nice. It's like a former convent, and they're doing Roman style baths down there.
Yeah,
I think Roman. It's like the whole like Roman Empire meme. Like how often do you think about the Roman Empire? Like I think for whatever reason, like Roman is really in right now.
He's having a moment.
Yeah,
really, it's the bath culture that's driving that. There's a big interest in it because it's communal. Right. And so, how people used to bathe in the 1500s was to go to the bath and be with each other. And I think we're coming back to that, albeit with bathing suits this time in most countries anyway.
And community, that's a big theme as well. Like the membership, you were talking about membership, like that's a big, having a membership spa, that's really interesting. Like even the Estelle Manor one, the one that I just mentioned, that's a hotel that was based off of a membership club. So this idea that you're getting a built-in community when you come to the spa, I think is really a big trend as well.
Very well. This has been a ton of great information. I mean, I'd like to close with one last question for each of you about if you're approached by a spa property and they want you to come, what is something that will be the hook that will get your attention in order to entice high-flying journalists like yourselves to visit?
For me, I think it needs to be new. It needs to be an interesting location. I don't really like to look at something in isolation. I like to know, as I said at the top of the conversation that we had, there's a link to where I'm going. And maybe, there needs to be a sort of really strong story or hook. So whether that's a whole new treatment that you can't get somewhere else, or a combination of treatments that's unique, or something about, I don't know, they may have a theme to that spa. So it's hard to sort of come up with, but I'm sort of, I would want something that's novel and new and surprising, I guess.
Yeah, same. And for me, what would really get me intrigued is a personality. Like I can't stop thinking about the nun.
Yeah,
I think
incredible.
something like that is just such a great story. And so I think I just think it's such an under accessed area. I think that spa directors could really be talking to their staff and see where those stories are and introduce them to journalists and give them a chance to have some one-on-one time, or even give them a chance to come up with their own ideas for treatments. But I just think, if you present me with an interesting personality that's behind some kind of wellness treatment, I think that would be such a great story.
Well, thank you both for your time. It took us about a month to find a day when all three of us were not in an airplane. So well done. Nicole Trilovitz and Angelina Villa-Clark for joining. I will have contact information for you in the show notes. And safe travels. Last note, where's your next trip, Nicole? Where are you off to?
I'm off to Italy next month.
Awesome. And Angelina?
I have a couple of UK visits, but then I'm off to the Seychelles in April.
Okay.
Ooh,
Well,
nice.
we look forward to reading the reports on those trips. Thanks, and
Thank you.
thank you very much for your time. It was really great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Thanks for having us.